Alright, so you may not know it because it seems like no time has passed in between these videos, but I just got back from a long hike in Garden of the Gods. And in between the next set of videos, while I'm waiting for them to compile, I'm going to make some really good brats on the grill. Looking forward to that. Okay, so where were we? Oh yes, I made a couple changes. So let me show you what I did. This code, I kind of cleaned it up so that it looks more like how Java looks, which is good. You guys should all do that so that you're kind of practiced in that. If you remember before, where I am kind of over here, it looked different. I cleaned this up so this makes more sense. And so here's how this reads. Again, I'll go through all these again. Here's the step. Remember, on step, that's what happens 30 times a second. Okay, that's the main loop. We'll call it the main loop. This just loops over and over again. Any code you have in the step, it just does over and over again. So that is here, right? Here it is, event object ship dot step. And what I have here is an if statement. And so it reads, if the speed is greater than 0, that's a condition, then I'm going to decrement the speed by 0.05. And notice I changed that so it slows down a little faster. 0.05 every time. So in this right here, that's the closing of the if statement. This is kind of the opening of the if statement. So again, how it works is you have if, and then a condition. This is my condition. If that condition is met, then this line of code fires off. If this condition is not met, then it just skips over at every step and it doesn't work. So if my speed is 0, 0 is not greater than 0, and it will not decrement the speed. So do you see what happens here? The ship should slow down, and then when it hits 0, it'll just stop. It won't go backwards. This minus equals, what that basically does is the same thing as if I wrote it this way. See that right there? How this would read is that I take whatever my speed is, current speed, I subtract this much off of it, and then I put that value back into the variable speed. So say my speed was 10. I'm going to take 0.05 off 10. That's going to be 9 point something, put it back in speed. Now my speed is that. Then I'm going to take this point off of it, this amount off of it, and subtract it over and over again. A faster way to write that, since that's a process used in programming a lot, is this. It's just minus equals. So that's what that is. So that's my friction. If I go to up, then I have this code. All right, so remember, if I push up on the keyboard event, it's going to change the sprite index to ship move. And then I'm going to move, right? And remember, this comma right here is going to separate these two parameters that are going into this function. And so the first one is going to be my image angle. So this is going to be the direction my ship is moving, and that's why we set up our, remember, our sprite so that's facing at 0 degrees on the unit circle. And then my velocity is going to increment by 0.1. Now this 0.1 increment is greater than the 0.05 decrement, so therefore it's moving forward. If speed is greater than 20, all right, here's my condition for this if statement. That means as soon as my speed hits 20.0001, then I'm going to take the value 20 and put it into speed. And then, of course, if I'm still pushing up on the arrow key, it's going to go back to 20.001. But then I'm going to stick it back to 20. So this is going to be happening again 30 times a second, but it's going to slightly go above 20, slap it down to 20. Slightly go above 20, put it back to 20. So you're going to just notice it always being at 20. All right, and then if I have release up, okay, so that's when this is whenever I'm holding the up key. This is when I'm releasing the up key. That is when we are going to do this right here. Okay, we're going to change the index back to ship chill so that it'll stop. All right, so I'll show you what it looks like now, and then we'll change this intersect boundary code. So here's what it looks like when I run it. And when you're done with this, this is how yours should look as well. Alright, here's my ship. I'm holding down the key, the up key. Notice how it nicely accelerates, like we're just going through space. Right? And I should get up to 20, and then it will freeze, so it won't go any faster. See? That's as fast as it goes right there. 20. Now as I release the key, the engine should shut off and it should slow down to 0. So here I go. I'm going to release the key right now. There it goes. And the ship should slowly stop. Now I realize in space that's not real. It should keep going, but we'll just pretend that when you let off the thrusters, you have anti-thrusters firing to slowly slow your ship down. So see, so I kind of get this little effect of kind of slowly, you know, trudging through space. So pretty cool. Some of you might want to play around with this. That's totally fine. What if I made speed, if speed's greater than 200? Right, that's going to let me go way faster. So let's say I do that. I should go way faster, and then it's going to jam it down to 20. So let's see what happens. So that's probably where we were at about 20. And now look, it just keeps going faster. That's almost as fast as the mothership can go. Now watch, it's going to hit 200 at some point. And when it hits 200, it'll slap it back down to 20 because I didn't change that inside the if statement. I'm assuming it will hit 200 in not like 10 hours. Whoa. This might take too long. You guys can try it. Look how fast that ship's going. Okay, I'm not waiting for that. Let me go ahead and fix my my code here back to where it was. All right. Next thing on the agenda, we're gonna fix this intersect boundary code because that's kind of wimpy. So let's delete this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my on-step code. Alright? On-step. Okay, now remember, on-step happens all the time. Like, it's just constantly happening. So I'm going to put some new code in here, and it's going to be, instead of wimpy drag and drop, it's going to be Conan the Barbarian coding warp through the screen like a barbarian. Okay, so there that is. And we're going to use this code that I already made up here, so I'm going to kind of walk you through it. And yes, I realize I just said Conana. It's not Conana, it should be Conan. Am I spelling that right? I don't know. Okay, you figure that out. Now, remember my room. Okay, so let's look at my room here. My room is 640 by 480. So remember, those are pixels, right? 640 pixels across, 480 up and down. So look at this. I have 4 if statements here, okay? X, since I'm in the object ship, X is simply going to be the X coordinate of my ship. It's already built in that way, so you just already have that. So at the left side of the screen, right, that's going to be your 0 pixel for your X coordinate. So if your ship goes less than that, I'm going to now make it the maximum width of pixels. So that way it'll warp through that way. See how that works? So since my width is 640, I'm going to make that 640. Same thing if X is greater than 640, right? So if the position of my ship goes greater than 640, now I'm going to set X to 0, so that I'll warp it to the other side of the screen. And then we'll do the same thing for Y's. So 480, And if y is greater than 480, go to 0. Now, all this code that I'm doing, you guys are typing in, I don't want you to just type it in and just go with it, because I'm telling you right now, if you just type in the code and just run it and that's it, you're going to not do well when you have to code on your own. You're gonna have a lot of questions and you're not gonna understand what you're doing. So I'm explaining how this code works because I want you to actually go through it, think about it, and understand logically why it's working the way it's working. I'm saying all of this stuff for a reason because you guys need to understand how this works. So don't just copy this stuff in and be happy that your ship works. You need to understand it. We will have quizzes on this type of logic, and if you don't understand how to do it, you're not going to do well in the quiz. So I'm just throwing that out there, make sure you understand it. If, right, is a conditional statement. I have a conditional statement in here. If this conditional statement is meant, x is less than 0. If that is a true statement, then it runs this line of code. That's why it's an if. If this is true up here, run this. If it's not, it skips over. Think about this happening over and over again. Follow through it. Make sure you understand how. If you need me to kind of go over it with you a little bit, just ask me in class and I will. All right, so let's see how this works. So remember, I don't have, if I go to my object ship, I don't have that thing here anymore, the intersect boundary. Like, we're just doing it by code now. So let's see what happens. There we go. See, got the same exact thing. We're just warping through the screen. All right, cool. Now let's rotate this mother. Actually, it's not a mothership. It's a little fighter ship. Okay, so I'm gonna add an event. Key press right. I'm gonna add some code here. Okay, now how did I find this code? Again, I looked it up on the internet. So you guys can do that, all right? Just look it up on the internet. Here's image angle. There's image angle right there. Look how easy this is. If you went through the Game Maker book already with Galactic Mail, you will see that they had a sprite with, like 36 different images at different angles, and they were telling Game Maker to change it, each angle depending on what key, how long you held the button, like the right button. That's so much work. Look at this, image angle. Here's the angle of your ship. It starts at 0. If I hit the right key, it's going to increment that angle by 10. And see, it's going to be whatever that angle is, take 10 and add it to it. Which actually, if you remember trig, that would not be correct, right? Because if I increment it plus 10, that's going to turn it left. It's going to turn it towards 90 degrees. So I'm going to come in here and make that negative, and let's see if this works. Although maybe it's backwards because the XY coordinates are backwards. Or not backwards, but their origin is in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. So I don't know, we'll see, but I think we're going to want to go negative 10 degrees to rotate right because of the unit circle. So let's see. And again, this is good strategy to what I'm doing. Do one thing, run your program, test it, make sure it's working, then do something else, run it, test it. If you do a bunch of things at once and you run your program and it's broke, you're not going to know what you did wrong. You're not going to know which one of those 10 things, let's say, that you did was wrong. So if you do one thing and test it at a time, if something doesn't work, you know where it broke and you can try to fix it. So there's a little strategy for you. So I'm going to hold down the right key, and every time I press it, it rotates, but it does not go smoothly. So that is a problem because I want it to go smoothly. So let's see here. What did I do wrong? Oh, I did press. So let's think about press and release. I'm going to copy this, by the way. Actually, I'm going to cut it. So press means if I push down, as soon as it hits down, boom, it fires it off once and once only. Same thing with release. That means as soon as I release it, boom, it fires off, whatever actions I want. If you want to continuously do something, you're actually going to want to have just the key itself, just keyboard. So I should have done keyboard right. And while I'm at it,